Oh, this is terrific. Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. And thank you so much for hopping on a little bit late for our COVID-19 Adams County update. So I appreciate the patience with some of the questions I've been receiving. I know you guys are anxious to hear from our county commissioners. I am your host, Juliette Abdel, Westminster Chamber President and CEO. If this is your first time on our page, make sure that you like our page, that you follow this page, and also share the information so that you can be a resource to family and friends that need it during this time. So the COVID-19 series, as you all are familiar with, if you've been following us, is a program that we've launched virtually. Nearly every day we go on at around 11 to 11:30. Contingent on tech, but we come on to share with you about either a topic you can take and implement in your business or as an employee or everyday resident, or as an updates opportunity from some of our elected officials. So Friday are reserved for our electeds. Last week we had Senator Faith Winter and State Representative Tracy Kraft Tharp on here. If you've not watched the state updates video, scroll down on our Facebook page and you can find it. All the videos are left on Facebook. They're also on our Westminster Chamber YouTube account as well. So with me today, I have both Commissioners Mary Hodge and Commissioner Steve O'Dorisio. We have a few slides that we'll be kind of going through, and any comments or questions that you have, please pepper them through along the way so that we can fire them to our two amazing commissioners. I'm excited to have Adams County with us. They have had a pretty robust approach in attacking this, and we've been partnering where we can and where it makes sense to move our communities forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Commissioner O'Dorisio. We have a few slides that we'll be kind of going through, and any comments or questions that you have, please pepper them through along the way so that we can fire them to our two amazing commissioners. I'm excited to have Adams County with us. They have had a pretty robust approach in attacking this, and we've been partnering where we can and where it makes sense to move our communities forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Commissioner O'Dorisio.
Thank you very much.
That we'll be kind of going through, and any comments or questions that you have, please pepper them through along the way so that we can fire them to our two amazing commissioners. I'm excited to have Adams.
Okay, can you hear me? All right. Juliette, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we're moving forward. All right, so my name is Steve O'Dorisio. I'm one of the Adams County Commissioners. I'm here today with Mary Hodge. She's also joining us via streaming. And we've been asked to give an update on what we as a county are doing in response to this COVID crisis. And so over the last month, we've put together some task forces that have now become response recovery teams, and I'm going to get into that pretty soon. Let me go ahead and start showing you some of these slides that we have. The first one that I want to show you is the impact. As of 2 days ago, actually it was 3 days ago, we had almost 400 cases and just about 14 deaths. The challenge that we're having also statewide, as you can see, these numbers are changing all the time. And so my recommendation is, the last time we were able to update this the slide, is to still go out and check the numbers at CDPHE, Colorado Department of Health and Environment, or Tri-County Health. But it's no question, there's no question that Adams County has been impacted by the COVID crisis. As a result, we put together a group of folks to try to understand what are some of the impacts that we're seeing out in the community. And we've partnered with our cities, and that's all the cities are listed in this slide here. Our partner cities and us all came together and said, let's identify some of the economic impacts that we're seeing across the board. And we really appreciate that partnership, which includes Westminster Chamber working with us to make sure that instead of inundating folks with so many different surveys, we were able to really come together as partners and try to get some information and reach out to our business community as a whole. Some of the impacts that we saw as a result of this survey is that at the time when the survey went out, 43% of the folks said that they have not reduced staffing. And while that may sound good, 43%, that means that that there's not 43% that might be reducing staffing. And so far, 24% that specifically said they had to lay off employees or contract workers, and 24% said they had to reduce employee or contract hours. And then, of course, there's folks that 9% have had to do a little bit of both. And it's unfortunate that we're seeing some of these impacts, but this is what we have to do, is to make informed data-driven decision making. We really do look at the data. Another impact, we found that 55% have had seen a decline from last month, or from a year ago at this time. And also 66% of the businesses polled said that they expect a decline in April as well. We found that the biggest impacts that they're seeing across the board are a lack of cash reserves. Closures have impacted a lot of our businesses locally. The inability to pay bills and fees is a concern. Canceled events, late payments, and the reduction of participation in gatherings and events. A lot of our businesses really rely on social interaction, and obviously that has been impacted by this crisis. Types of assistance respondents have suggested that they're looking for access to capital, and we'll get into some of the different types of resources. And I know Juliet has done an outstanding job reaching out to the businesses to let them know some of the federal resources and state resources, and we'll be tapping in and talking a little bit about some of our local Adams County resources. The other thing, of course, is tax relief, and that goes a little bit with the access to capital and some of those other resources where that may overlap. And then rental assistance is a concern, not just for businesses, but also folks living in rental homes. Our response in Adams County was to identify 7 key strategic areas where we are expecting and seeing the most impact to folks in our community. That includes childcare for critical personnel, and that if we don't have childcare for many of these folks with the schools and with many businesses shut, with many of the schools shut down, a lot of folks can't, in the critical personnel, are not able to go to work, and we need that critical personnel out there. The next one is small business support. We're going to dive a little deeper into that one today. Senior services, helping those older folks in our community who are proven to be the most vulnerable to this health crisis. And then support for the uninsured, and that's making sure people have insurance and are encouraged to seek medical attention and help when they need it. And then housing stability is number 5. Food security and basic essentials is number 6, and that's we're finding that that's a continuous concern. And then, of course, support for the unemployed and future workforce. And that's the other side of the coin on the business side, is that in our economic, I would say, a crisis right now, making sure that we are trying to do the best we can to support folks. Diving a little bit, real brief, into some of these, the uninsured and healthcare strategy. We promoted the extension of the enrollment period, and the state fulfilled that. Chaz Tedesco led that way on that one, and it was something that was really a big win. We feel that came from Adams County. Once again, Chaz Tedesco really pushed for that, and we got behind him, and the governor agreed to extend that. That means we're going to have many families have insurance because that extension of the enrollment period was done. Going into the child care for essential personnel, it is something that is important, and we've got to be able to find a way for people to be able to go to work for those critical and essential folks. And I'm going to dive a little bit into this next one, which is business support, response, and recovery. The task force that we have set up, which is now called a response and recovery team, we broke it out. Our goal is to really try to support as many businesses as possible, to try to support retention of businesses and those who are employed there. The business support task force or team was broken out into 3 different areas. We've got a industry-specific response team, and the goal there is to really hear from folks in the different industries and sectors. What is it that they are specifically experiencing or seeing? And that's what that sub-task force, that subcommittee is focused on, the Adams County Business and Industry Response Council. The one in the middle is the business outreach. The business outreach is focusing on how do we provide that two-way communication with our businesses. And that's really relying on folks like the Westminster Chamber and other partners that are really the hubs of information. How can we push out information to the folks in the community as well as gather information? And once again, folks like the Westminster Chamber have done an outstanding job working with all of us as partners. And I just want to thank Juliet and the team there for being a strong partner. It really has helped. And then the third area is called FIRE, financial, insurance, and real estate. And FIRE, it really is part of the industry, and but because financial, insurance, and real estate kind of covers many different areas and many industries and sectors, we have this as a separate group because almost every single business sector and industry is impacted by the group in that FIRE. And so we've created that as a separate breakout subgroup. The next thing I wanted to let you know is that the Business and Industry Emergency Response Council is comprised, like I said, of a variety and diverse group of folks coming from different sectors. You've got health, you've got energy, construction, manufacturing, housing, financial. All these folks, as you can see on this list, a very wide array of folks coming together and really trying to not just provide some of that information and perspective, but also these are some of the leaders in our community who are a really big part of the Adams County economy. And we really appreciate these folks stepping up in a time where not only they have a lot of challenges within their walls, but they're trying to help the rest of us outside the walls. So we want to thank the folks there for helping out. Next is a business response in needs. Like we said, we're finding through the survey and also that a lot of folks are concerned about PPE, where there's been they need some help understanding the different loans and the grant processes. There's all these different things that are being thrown out at people. Which tool do I use? What do I want to, which tool can we use? And what's the impact of using this tool versus a different tool? And that's what we're trying to help get that information out there. What are some best practices that some of these industries and businesses are finding in order to pivot or to be flexible and stay, continue, their continuity of operations during this time? Inspection and permitting is a big issue because we want to make sure that the construction and housing industry doesn't grind to a halt. It's a big part of our economy, but it also is important for housing. And then questions about taxes. And a lot of the questions that do come up are, can you defer or delay or suspend taxes? And we're finding that when it comes to property tax, a lot of those answers are really limited by the actual Constitution. So if you have questions about tax-specific methods to try to address this crisis, I would ask that you please reach out directly to the Adams County Treasurer's Office. The Adams County Treasurer, Lisa Culpepper, is specifically answering these types of questions herself to make sure that people who have those questions are getting them answered. Moving on, lack of information and resources for some of the folks in the Spanish-speaking community, those Spanish-speaking businesses. We got to make sure that they have access to all the information that we are getting out to the rest of our economic community. And then a lot of the final one is we're finding that there's still a lot of questions that may be asked about the stay-at-home orders. It didn't help that we had a few different orders. You had a local, and then you had Denver, and then you had a state, and then we went back to the local. Now that we have a single state order that has really pulled it together, it's a lot easier to at least try to channel some of those questions and find the answers. But one of the things I will say that we have found is that there's still questions that people are going to have. What am I allowed to do? What businesses are allowed to continue working? The next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about what is Adams County doing. So you have federal resources out there, and you hear about the SBA loans, and you hear about all these other potential offers, the EIDL loan, you hear about grants. But in addition to what's at the federal level, and some of that takes a little time, we are working on getting a local stimulus package, implementing a local stimulus package in Adams County that has really 4 components. And the first component is the small business loan. Adams County already had a $1 million microloan fund in Adams County. And what we've done is really expand upon that to focus. We've expanded that program to reach out to the business community as a microloan, small business loan, but it's now a $5 million loan fund that we're building. And that's in partnership with our cities. That includes folks like Westminster and the other cities and towns and our partners in Adams County really coming together, because some of those federal loans don't always get there right away. This hopefully will allow folks to get access to those loans, get some of that bridge funding until the other federal loans kick in. The second program that we're working on is a grant program. That's not a loan, it's an actual grant. And that's for the ultra small businesses. We're still working through some of the criteria, because some of the funding sources for this $1 million fund will be CDBG, Community Development Block Grants. What that means is that our focus is to pull together some solutions that help low to medium income folks. So that's the next thing. Is we also have the Community Emergency Response Fund is the third one. That's really designed to help us get to, focus on helping our partners and our nonprofits. And that's through the Adams County Foundation. And then finally, the fourth one, and Julia has been outstanding in this, is helping her restaurants. And this is where we're really going to rely on our chambers and our other partners like the Westminster Chamber, but is our ADCO to Go restaurant campaign. We still have a lot of restaurants in unincorporated areas that may not be covered by or may not be as blessed to have a group like the Westminster Chamber. So we're going to be focusing on how can we help those folks in the cities, but also really help all those unincorporated businesses. Finally, one of the task forces that we have, or the recovery teams, is for the unemployed and the future workforce response team. And so, as you know, once again, you got the businesses and then you've got the employees. And we just talked about the laundry list of things that we're doing for businesses. A lot of the employee thing does overlap a little bit, where we're trying to see if we can get businesses to try to keep as many people employed as possible. And then there are other times where it may not always work out. So what we're trying to do is be able to connect folks that are employees right away to resources that they can get, whether it's unemployment or even continue working with businesses as maybe in the rapid response and other sorts of things. But this is going to be a long-term play. And I think that's what's important for us is to remember, is that this is, there is an immediate crisis response that has to occur. But at the end of the day, we have a long-term recovery that's going to require all of us. And so every one of these strategies is going to require a short-term play and a long-term play. That's a lot of information to dump. Do you have any questions, Juliet, or anyone else?
So I'm going to go ahead and try this. I think this is going to be fun. Steve, humor me.
All right, we'll try.
We've got a few different folks that are tuning in. Thank you, State Representative Tracy Kraft-Tharp, for tuning into this with us. We've got Peter, who shares Bank Commissioner, for the update, and Parker from one of our area restaurants. It looks like we also have Deandra from the Doubletree. Our hotels, as you're aware, hotels and really food service restaurants are the ones that are, and travel are hit the most right now. Just on an immediate, I think it constitutes about 83%. So it's good for us to really know that you're open, Deandra, and stay tuned for some of the efforts that we will do to try and encourage people your way. I do want to, I think this was kind of cool. We can show that, huh? So thank you, Deandra. And then Brian commented and kind of thanks Adams County for being a partner and supporting the chamber for a really long time, because that's paying dividends today. And I know Brian is referencing, you know, we've had a really strong relationship with Adams County. For me, it's been over 3 years now that I've been with the organization and working hand in hand with our county government. But their investment and their support really earlier on helps to build the relationship that we have right now. And I can tell you, Steve and I are texting every couple of days when there's something that we want the other person to be aware of or stay tuned of. And it's so important during this time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it doesn't look like we have any questions. So there are a couple that I want to throw your way, Steve.
Okay.
One is, actually there are several things. So one of the things that you've been able to address for us related to the funding. And so recently, you know, you mentioned the current funding mechanism that you're trying to implement as a county and how some of the cities are going to be plugged into this. Has that launched as far as taking applications yet? where in the timeline is it so people can be aware?
So what we do is ask folks, I think I'm getting a little, sorry, is ask folks to go to we have a website, Adams County COVID-19.org. And the reason we say that is because we're going to have all that information out there. Some of the links are going to be updated soon. And so not all of it is available yet. Like I told you, and I should get the website up here. Let me try to type that in for everyone. Adams County COVID-19.org. And be checking that out. There's going to be links for the business side. But not all of the stuff is absolutely available just yet, and we're working on that right now. Like I said, some of the stuff that we're working on includes some of the criteria for the grants and some of the logistics of getting those funds set up. But we're getting those set up.
Okay. Well, you got off easy, Steve. I don't know if you actually did that the best possible so far, or if it was just so much information that you threw out there at everybody.
I'll take it either. So if you have any questions, feel free to go to the website. Also, there's a link to our the accounts from both myself and Mary Hodge, and you can send us an email anytime, or I think even our phone numbers are on the website too, for the county website. So it's an honor and privilege to work with the folks that we're working with, and it's an honor and privilege to work for the folks in Adams County. And I just want to thank you all for sticking strong. And it's some of this is going to really, a lot of the solutions and us getting through a lot of this is going to come from people pulling together, not just in these organized manners, but in a grassroots, organically helping out neighbors and businesses at a time. You know, buying a meal from the restaurant for takeout. It's going to be making sure that you're supporting your neighbor's small business. It's going to be supporting and paying attention to when the chamber says, hey, we want you to get behind some of these local businesses. Please do that and continue to support each other and folks like the Westminster Chamber. So thank you.
Well, thank you again, Commissioner. We're going to go ahead and end the broadcast. If we have any additional comments or questions, I'll be sure that we have you or Commissioner Hodge address them in the future. For information about everything that Adams County is doing, Commissioner O'Dorisio has shared that for us, adamscountycovid19.org. The updates for that page are also linked on our resources page, so you have access to what they're doing. So if you come over to Westminster Chamber, we'll direct you on some of the things over to them, and just kind of stay informed on what they're pushing out. We do as much as we can to information share, cross promote, and help one another. But this is definitely an opportunity. If you're in the community and looking for ways to be engaged, here is that chance to do so. So this PowerPoint, if that's okay, Commissioner O'Dorisio, I'll probably take this and also link it on our webpage as well and make that available, and make it available as a downloadable item on our YouTube page. So make sure you reflect back on some of the data points and feedback that we received on the surveys. And like I shared before, you know, this is our first time having Adams County Commissioners on here with us, and hopefully we'll have some more great news to continue to share back. But thank you again, Commissioner.
Thank you very much.